Time for another episode of the Tech Informist. Let's begin. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brad.
On this episode of the Tech Informist, we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch.
Verizon's getting tired of waiting for people to return thousands of Note 7s.
These leaked Samsung Galaxy S8 front panels hint at the upcoming phone's design.
LG will be holding a press conference at Mobile World Congress on February 26th.
LG's also going to be officially unveiling 2 new Android Wear smartwatches on February 9th.
Can President Trump help get Apple to bring production to the U.S.?
Microsoft patents a phone with a foldable screen.
No more Cortana support for the Band 2 on Android.
Speaking of Cortana, Cortana is also coming to your Android lock screen soon. All right, everybody, let's get started here. It's Nintendo Switch time we mentioned on last week's episode, which we hope that you listened to, because we recorded that before the Nintendo Switch event, which was held at kind of an odd time here in the United States, I believe 10 p.m. Central Time. So what did you think? I mean, you got a chance to kind of watch it somewhat as it was happening.
The event itself was very strange, very quirky, very fun. All that rolled together. There was bad things about it. There were great things about it. I loved their press conference, actually, or whatever you want to call it, the event.
Because I know during the press conference, it was a little different from a United States perspective because they were all speaking Japanese, and then there was a English translator. So that, to me, that kind of throws me off a little bit. And I know it's just the nature of being a worldwide experience now. Yeah. It's just different, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, and I'm so used to everything being like in English, so.
I didn't know what to expect, but in my head, I was expecting Reggie to walk out and just start talking and telling the world about what it is.
Yeah, because typically he is the spokesperson.
Totally not that. It was the Nintendo president, I believe, that walked out and introduced one of the head engineers on Nintendo Switch. And his name escapes me because these are all new faces. They don't normally show up on camera. Yeah. So it's kind of cool to see this new system and new faces in the same conference.
Yeah, the producer of these games and stuff like that were the ones that are actually showing these things off. And it was very interesting because after the Mario Odyssey clip, the person that was introducing the games got this little Mario hat on. I'm like, looks a little funny there, but hey, it's all part of the experience and showcasing everything.
Same thing when they were introducing Splatoon. They had the Splatoon ink guns, and they were it was really different indeed.
So Nintendo Switch, do you want one?
I want one, yes. I do not have one pre-ordered, so that means I'm not getting one at launch. I'm kind of holding out either for a bundle this Christmas or maybe a different color that strikes my fancy. Because right now, it's nice they do have colors at launch. Most systems don't do that.
And really, when you say colors, it's just, everything is gray, or you can get the blue and the red Joy-Cons.
Yes, and those are the pack-in ones for the system. If you want all red or all blue, that's going to be $80.
Yeah, because these accessories are going to be a little bit more pricier than what we were used to. Well, I don't know about that, because it seems like Nintendo hardware, when it comes to controllers and stuff, always seem to be a little bit pricey because there's a lot of technology that goes into these things.
And that kind of has me wonder, these aren't simple dummy controllers like we kind of originally thought they were. They have this new HD rumble that they're talking about, and there's a sensor that when you're playing the 1-2 switch. So there's actually quite a bit of technology in these. We just don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, because if you look at the controller, you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. There's kind of like 9 buttons and 1 joystick on each Joy-Con. There's a lot of buttons that's going into these things. Like you said, there's a lot of technology that they're doing in these controllers because, like you mentioned, all the haptic feedback and stuff like that. And these things are so small. They look so little.
And from what I hear, they are. As little as they look, they are that little.
They're every bit as that. From, you watch a lot of the YouTube videos and stuff from people that got to go to the New York event and get hands-on and play the games and stuff like that. So game-wise, they announced there's only going to be 2 games available launch day, or there's just a couple games available
I believe launch? 3, and that would be 1-2 Switch, ARMS, and Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Right. And of course, Zelda Breath of the Wild is going to be the last game for the Wii U console because it's going to be on both systems. And I forgot which website, I think it was IGN. They had a really great side-by-side showing off the visual differences of what it looks like on the Wii U and also what it looks like on the Switch.
And it's very noticeable when docked, too, when we're talking about that.
Yeah, and it's not to say that Switch is a super high-powered console. It's far from that because, we're not even talking 1080p kind of stuff on the tablet itself.
When docked, it plays Zelda at 900p, and that's kind of where it's maxed out for that game.
Which leads me to believe what is Nintendo's primary focus here? Are they focusing this more on as a home console, or are they typically promoting it more as a mobile console?
From what I hear, they're trying really hard to promote it as a home console. That just so happens to be one you can take with
portable.
You. Yeah.
Because during the official unveiling back in, October, November, that they first showed off that video, and it showed, he starts out in the living room, grabs it, gets on the bus, and then gets on the plane, and he goes to his friend's place, and they're all sitting around. It's just different aspects of different ways that you can play this thing.
Mm-hmm. And they actually did mention the battery life. It's quite the jump. It's anywhere between 2.5 hours all the way up to 6 hours. It really depends on the game you're playing.
Yeah, it depends on the game and I guess whatever it is that you're going to be doing. I guess from my understanding, you're going to be able to install like some kind of apps and stuff. You would assume something like Netflix or...
None of those will be at launch.
At launch, yeah. That's kind of the thing.
Which in 2017, what?
Yeah.
Although on the same accord, you probably already have something that does that.
You would imagine, but then again, if you're buying this, you kind of want it to be able to do the majority of things that...
Well, yeah, because you don't even get a disk drive right now, so I'm just saying.
And the online experience, Nintendo is going to be offering a paid online experience, but it's free for like the first 6 months or something like that until like the fall.
And you also get a free game a month with that. However...
Yeah, it's not free for you to keep.
Yeah, it's only free for that month. And that kind of bothers me because the other two systems give you at least 2 free games and you get to keep them.
Yeah, it's yours to keep. But then again, we're looking at this thing having a 32 gig internal storage, which has an expandable storage slot, which takes
up to 2 terabytes, which doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah, but Nintendo says, hey, whenever they do come out, the Switch will handle it. So $300, which we were kind of expecting this to be more around the $250 mark. So I think a lot of people were kind of, oh, well, $300.
I actually was expecting more of the $299. I was hoping for $250.
Oh, yeah, everybody was hoping for cheaper.
Almost positive the $299 was going to stick.
Yeah.
However, March 3rd was way sooner than I was expecting.
Yeah, man, that is just like right around the corner because we're recording this again on January the 20th. So we're just a little over a month away from this thing dropping. And it's not just dropping first in the United States. It's dropping simultaneously in the United States, Canada, Japan, major European countries, Hong Kong, and other territories.
From what I understand, they have 2 million units for launch. And after that, we'll see.
And speaking of the fact of a worldwide launch, the Nintendo Switch is not going to be region locked.
Oh, thank God.
So that, in a way, is really good because that's always been one of the big things for people that are like really into gaming and they want to import and play all these other games from other countries. And in order to do that, you either had to hack your system or you had to buy one of their consoles. You had to buy a region-locked console for that area that you wanted to play the game, and that could be quite expensive if you just wanted to play one game.
Or for the case of people who move frequently, like Alana from IGN. She lives in Australia, but she works in America. She can't really bring over most of her Nintendo stuff because it won't work over here.
Right. So I think this is really good to have it region unlocked. I think that's a great thing.
Such a good idea. They needed to do this 2 generations ago. It's just better for the consumer in every possible way. I can't understand why they would have ever have done this to begin with, but neither here nor there.
So in the package, you probably can assume that you're going to get the dock, the tablet, the first set of Joy-Cons, and then I guess you also get the grip?
You get the cradle. However, if you have the Joy-Cons snapped onto it, there's no way to charge them both. You actually have to buy a separate item. It's $40 to charge while you play. Also, you do get the AC adapter, which, lo and behold, it's USB Type-C. Thank freaking God.
Yeah.
So you know what that means? You can use freaking any battery charge pack that you could think of.
Have they said how long estimated on battery life of the Joy-Con controllers?
That I haven't heard anywhere. That has me a little worried. And it's hard to say because, like we mentioned earlier, there seems to be a lot of tech in this tiny little package, but we don't know yet.
So some of the games that have been announced currently are 1-2 Switch, as we mentioned before, which is kind of going to be the Switch console's version of Wii Sports. It's just casual games for anybody to be able to pick up a Joy-Con controller and be able to play.
And it was weird the way they were kind of marketing it is you didn't really need the screen to play.
Right, because games like Gunfighter kind of thing where I guess you're almost standing back to back and
then it's like
it kind of signals and you first person to draw and shoot or whatever. I guess you won't necessarily need to look at the screen to be able to do something because, again, these Joy-Con controllers are going to have all this little technology built in as well.
Again, worries me for battery life, but we'll see.
And then there's another game called ARMS, which I guess from what I've seen of the videos and stuff, it looks kind of like, I wouldn't necessarily say a boxing game, but it's some kind of like fighting style.
What, you mean like Punch-Out?
Exactly, which it's like, well, why not have a Punch-Out game at launch?
It was funny, we were talking about this on Destructoid, how we always want to see more new things from some company.
New IPs.
And then when they show the new thing, we're like, well, why can't you do the old thing?
Exactly. Don't you want us to try to do and innovate new games and stuff? Well, yeah, but sometimes it helps to throw out the... it's one thing to launch with older, familiar games to give people that familiarity, and then you kind of introduce the new IPs and stuff like that.
Can you imagine if, starting with the Nintendo Wii, if they had done some kind of program where you got a free game a month and you got to keep it, how many games you would have saved up by now and that you could play on this thing?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The virtual console was like totally roll over to
I'd
the
pay an
next
extra
generation.
$100 for this thing just because of that.
Yeah.
Back to ARMS, it can be played with Joy-Cons or you can just play it with a regular controller. There is no specific way that you have to play with it, so that's nice.
Another game, and this was actually shown off in the initial video a couple months ago, FIFA Soccer. Then you've also got Fire Emblem Warriors, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
That comes out in April. The reason it's deluxe is because they are adding multiplayer, which they did not have for regular Mario Kart. They didn't have the balloons where you could have the battle mode, and like you did on Nintendo 64. I don't know if you played much
64
of that.
GameCube had that as well.
Yeah. Really good to see that come back.
New Shin Megami Tensei, Rayman Legends Definitive Edition. So Rayman is coming back again. Skyrim on the Switch is officially confirmed. So that's like Elder Scrolls and all that.
From
good
what
stuff.
I understand, this isn't the remaster that just came out, but it isn't quite the older game either. It's kind of in between those. It has a little up-resed graphics here and there, but then doesn't quite have textures that you would normally see on the other consoles. It's a weird one, but it's specifically made for this console, which is good to see.
Yeah, because obviously you can't get as high-powered graphically on the Switch as you can a Xbox One or PS4 because, well, the power is just not quite there. For those of you fans of Splatoon, Splatoon 2 is coming to the system as well. So that's a very popular multiplayer game that I have yet to play because, well, I don't have a Wii U.
Our friend of the show, Justin, has a Wii U. We have played around with the idea of getting Splatoon, but now I guess we'll just kind of be getting it for the Switch. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's kind of pointless to get it on the Wii U now, I would say. But not really.
It depends how you look at it. If you're looking for things going forward, playing online, connectivity, that kind of thing, you might lean more towards this. So,
and there is a game called Steep coming out, and let's see what is Steep. So it's a snow sports game, which actually looks a little different.
So like SSX or whatever.
Maybe not like that. It looks. I don't know if it'd be something that I would really be
interested.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure either. Any sports game, I'm not super crazy about, to be honest.
Yeah, you're just not a sportsy kind of guy. Ultra Street Fighter 2. So for all you Street Fighter fanatics out there that's looking for a fighting game, here you go. Ultra Street Fighter 2. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I've yet to play any Xenoblade games, but from my understanding, they're fantastic.
Yes.
And then, of course, the big name is Mario, and there is a new one called Super Mario Odyssey, and this is a very open world.
They are bringing this out in the holiday season, which perfect. No date specifically, but just holiday, and I don't know, I would imagine sometime in November, right before Christmas. But basically, this is the first time we will see Mario with a hub world since Mario Sunshine and or Mario 64.
Yes.
So that is everything that I want is a Mario hub world, and very reminiscent of those kind of games. I love that.
Yeah, so Mario's hat is kind of like a living creature in a way. It's got eyes, and he can spin it out there like a frisbee and jump on it and do special things with it.
Yeah, in 64, he was the first time I think he lost his hat, and you found out, oh, that's bad because it's like his magical power or something.
Yeah, it's like taking or keeping Popeye away from spinach. So it is really going to be a great game. It shows Mario running through the streets of what looks obviously like New York, because that's what every video game city is typically based on.
It's called New Donk City, and I did not make that up.
New Donk City, folks. Wow. Which I guess is kind of a nod to Donkey Kong.
I would imagine. I would hope.
So it's not Mushroom Kingdom, and then he goes into all these other different worlds and does a whole bunch of different things. Prices of these games are going to range from $49.99 to $59.99. You assume games like 1, 2, 3 Switch is going to be in that $49.99 range, whereas Zelda, Mario, pretty much every other game is probably going to be the $60.
Yeah, it seems like most of the, in quotations, party games will be closer to that $50 price point. I mean, unless, I don't know, maybe that's the only one that will be that price. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's tough to say at this point. Pre-orders are live if they're not all sold out. I know Best Buy, Walmart, Target, Amazon, GameStop, they all had pre-orders, I know for sure.
And you would imagine that there might be a few little sprinkles here and there of going to line up at the store to get the 1 or 2 extras, in quotations, that they have. Or from canceled pre-orders, possibly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think if any store is going to have one, it's because it's a canceled pre-order. And I think the way GameStop was doing it, they don't charge your card until like you pick up, and so obviously they're going to be selling a whole bunch of these Zelda Breath of the Wild. See, I'm getting there. It's taking a little while to program myself. And yeah, so this all comes out on March the 3rd, which I believe is a Friday.
It is.
That's very exciting. It's the day after our anniversary. I don't know, maybe. Never know. And these come on like little bitty cartridges. Again, these are not discs.
They're a little bit thicker, maybe slightly bigger than a 3DS cartridge. It's not, the cartridges of old, because this is 2017 and we don't need anything that big anymore.
Yeah, and the packaging of the games was smaller than regular DVD case, regular game case that you're familiar with.
So
those don't need to be big for a little cart like that.
Right. I would imagine that they'd be similar to maybe a 3DS packaging, maybe a little taller just to distinguish it.
Yeah.
Just a guess.
Anyway, very excited. Looking forward to getting a chance to get some hands-on with this hopefully soon. I mean, who knows? I think it's going to be it's going to sell out, and it's going to be hard to find for at least the first few months, and then
kind of okay with that though.
Yeah,
I'm just going to kind of hold out again. I'm just see what else they have in store, see what other games they have up their sleeve. Who knows? Maybe they'll announce a Metroid game at E3.
Wouldn't that make somebody happy?
I want to believe.
He wants to believe. Verizon is kind of starting to get a little bit tired with the quote-unquote thousands of Verizon customers that have not returned their Note 7s. As you know, it's a national, worldwide recall of the Note 7 due to what is expected to be announced on Sunday the 22nd. I believe that's when Samsung's going to officially announce what they found was the cause of this, which is all points are pointing towards the battery.
Oh, kind of like
being the issue.
How if you get a sunburn, it came from the sun.
Yeah.
Huh. Imagine that.
I know. Who'd thunk it? So Verizon again, and I believe Verizon has already refunded these people, but the people haven't turned in their devices yet. I'm not sure how that's all kind of working out there, but Verizon is redirecting any like phone calls that are made from the Note 7s to like Verizon help centers and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
So it really goes to show what all kind of control that your carrier really does have, what they can do. I mean, they can disable it because they've already disabled charging. So you can't charge a phone, and once the battery dies, you can't use it unless it's plugged in. So you're tethered to a power cord.
I have to think that there are a very, very subgroup of people who are holding on to this phone as a quote-unquote collector's item because you will not be able to find this thing. It will be so rare. But again, I don't know why you would want to have it because it's like a freaking
time bomb just waiting to go off if you try to plug it in and do anything with it. So Verizon has made some of those changes. They updated that version out to the Note 7 that disabled the charging capability back on January the 5th. So, and outgoing calls are redirected to Verizon's customer service. The only exception will be for calls to 911 emergency services, which it kind of defeats the purpose because if you're needing to call 911 from a Note 7, it's probably because the phone just blew up in your hand. And you're going to be needing a different phone. I don't know. Anyway, get the thing kind of...
it's kind of amazing.
Just return it.
How many people still are holding on to it and have been using it on other carriers, let's say. Again, my wife works for a carrier, and she still has people coming in like, oh, I can't believe they're making us do this. It's like... well, Samsung's making you do this, so I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Yeah, it's not necessarily Sprint. It's Samsung, and we're just the middleman. And speaking of Samsung, there are some kind of leaks about what the S8 and the S8 Plus glass might look like.
Well, not only just the glass, but possible like what the phone itself will look like. And these leaks suggest that it will not have a home button on the front like most of you are used to. I would imagine, and I'm just spitballing here, that it's maybe on the back now. Or,
yeah, like the fingerprint sensor.
Or, and this would be very bad if they did this, if they got rid of it altogether and tried to use the IR sensor for facial recognition goodness.
Yeah, for, doing the eye verification and stuff like that and the facial recognition. But they could also be doing that where the fingerprint sensor is just on the screen somewhere.
Perhaps.
I know there's been talk of that in the past.
There has. Microsoft just got the patent for it, so they would be having to pay them for that. Hints that it is slated to be announced in March and then released in April.
Yes. But I mean, PocketLint reportedly says that Samsung might announce it during or near Mobile World Congress in February, which I believe that's later in February. It's not early in the month. I don't know. And there goes the flat display of the Galaxy S7, and everything's kind of going to go to a little rounded edges, more similar to the Edge.
Which, I'm going to be honest, I'm not super crazy about that.
Yeah, I'm not either, but then again, I don't have one to use and get used to on a regular basis. I would be fine if it didn't have that little edge thing on the side.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same way.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on this. But I know Samsung's got a lot riding on this S8.
Yes, they
and
do.
The S8 Plus.
And there are other players that we can talk about that might be showing them up.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, LG is expected to be holding a G6 press event on February the 26th at Mobile World Congress.
We've heard a lot of rumors about this phone, how it supposedly could be waterproof, how they're not getting rid of the headphone jack, all kinds of different rumors. The only one that is confirmed now is the 18:9 aspect ratio that LG has confirmed themselves. So that's interesting. The phone overall sounds like a much more higher quality build, not the modular design like I have on my G5, which is fine. That never took off in a meaningful way, as we've already talked about 100 times.
That was kind of a disaster.
It's sad because, again, when you innovate, sometimes you lose.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very, very excited for this phone. We just got a new rep for Verizon, which I will be connecting with soon. So we make sure that we can get this as soon as possible, because this is really a device that I might actually spring on.
Got his eyes on. Uh-huh. Got his eyes on. He loves his LG, not just the TVs.
We're also expecting the dual cam again, because it just worked so well in the past phones. And we're also expecting a possible IR scanner for facial recognition as well on here, along with possible dual cam on the front. Mm-hmm. These are all possibilities, and we'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a fan of LG's phones as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they come out with. I haven't really played around with one since the G4. So it'd be kind of nice to see what they do with the G6, and then, queue up the Keisha songs and the Pontiac G6 car and all that stuff.
Like a G6.
Maybe they can get her to do be the official spokesperson for it.
God. Oh, man.
Oh, naming. Speaking of LG, they are also going to be unveiling 2 new Android Wear 2.0 watches at a February the 9th event. And that's kind of been one of the things with Android Wear. And we talked about wearables last week. I used to have the first generation LG G Watch. And, those early days of Android Wear was kind of like, it just kind of didn't really do anything for me. And I ended up selling it because I don't know, just something about it. I'm like, I don't really care too much about this. But Android Wear 2.0 is supposed to be introducing a whole bunch more new features. But speaking of these LG watches, they are going to be unveiling and releasing the Sport and the Style. That's what the names of these two are.
I'm not sure which is which.
Okay, so the watch Sport is
a thicker one?
Yes, it's 14.2 millimeters thick with a slightly larger watch face and will be available in titanium and dark blue.
That's the one I would lean towards.
The bigger one?
Yes.
Or because of the two colors?
Probably the titanium, number one, and number two, the bigger. I just like the bigger watch face.
Yeah, so these are circular designs. Side button for navigational purposes, and which they talk about the side button kind of being similar to the crown on the Apple Watch.
That makes sense.
Those functions, not just a clicky button.
Right, that makes sense. It's something that people are relatively familiar with.
And here is some of the differences. The watch style, again, it's slightly slimmer at 10.8 millimeters. And it's going to come in some different color options. You get the titanium, similar to what is found on the Watch Sport. You also get silver and rose gold options. And you also have the option of swapping out straps for accessorizing. The Watch Sport is going to be IP68 rated. So
good.
There's some water and dust resistance. And IP67 for the watch style. So some differences there because of thickness. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connectivity on both, 4 gig internal storage on both. The other specs is where the differences come into play. The Watch Sport has 768 meg of RAM, as opposed to the Watch Style's 512. The Watch Sport also includes cellular connectivity with both 3G and LTE data, along with GPS and NFC radios. If you're wanting the most for your smartwatch, that's going to be the one that you're going to want to get because it's going to have more functionality to it.
That's so funny just thinking about how small these things are and how little RAM they have. But at the same time, it's plenty for what they are doing. Mm-hmm. But you just think back to the early computers that, I have 512 megabytes of RAM. I'm screaming.
Not even really that much for RAM storage.
Yeah, true.
Like I said, my very first computer that I paid over $2,000 for back in like 1996 had a 1.5 gig hard drive.
Oh, man.
I still remember buying my 13 gig hard drive at Sam's Club, thinking, I'll never fill that up.
Little did we know.
Okay. Both of these will be running Android Wear 2.0, like mentioned, and we'll have Google Assistant integration, be the first time on a wearable, as well as seeing what the Google Play Store access on the wrist and other standalone smartwatch apps. So we will see some other Android Wear devices will be eligible for the Android Wear 2.0 upgrade, although I am not seeing the list yet. As we record this on January the 20th, today's inauguration day here in the United States of the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. And it's still taking some time to kind of get used to that whole idea. It's not something... And I was thinking about this the other day, and I tweeted this out. Growing up, and you're learning about the presidents, and you're looking at this. You get, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Lincoln and U.S. Grant and Theodore Roosevelt and all these
Kennedy
names and people with what you presume, obviously, to have high moral character and stuff like that when it comes to certain things. Obviously, history is going to gloss over a lot of imperfections. But now you have Donald Trump, who has made a ton of money and has lost a ton of money. He's been in the public eye. I mean, I can remember back in the 80s during all this stuff with Marla Maples and Ivanka Trump and not Ivanka. Ivanka's the daughter. Ivana, I think, was his one wife's name.
I don't know.
He cheated on with Marla Maples, who he then married and also got divorced. And now he's married to Melania Trump, who is, I guess she's the first lady that has gotten a green card or something. I guess to live in the... I don't know how that's all working. It's just really... It's just totally different. And, yesterday's during that celebration that they had, I seen a short clip of him and Melania walking up and turning in front of the Lincoln Memorial, in front of the Lincoln statue and saluting. And I'm like, wow, this is really happening. And it's not a matter of just because he ran on the Republican ticket, because he was a Democrat and
well, people tend to forget he endorsed Clinton back in their heyday.
Yeah, back in their heyday.
He was friends with these people. You would see them at private dinners with pictures together. Yeah. People forget that. They like to forget that. In fact, the news wants you to forget that.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting to see. And hey, he's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Go along with it. We'll see what he can do.
Yeah.
Hopefully some of his cabinet choices, like Rick Perry, who had stated not that long ago that the energy department or whatever needs to be disbanded, and now he's being put in charge of that department.
Oh, good.
So anyway, that's beside the point. That's for an entirely different style of podcast.
Yes, it is.
But Trump claims that Tim Cook has his eyes open to moving Apple production to the United States. I'd be fine with that. I'm all fine for us building the products that we sell in this country.
So I was thinking about this all week, actually, mostly because this is coming up and this is something he wants to do. And while at first I would think like products would seem a little more expensive because they have to be manufactured here. You have to pay your employees a certain wage versus overseas. In the long run, I feel, I have no facts with this. It's a feeling. I feel that in the long run, while you're paying your employees good and they're making good products and it has this cycle going, eventually you get to the point where they also can afford the expensive products. And it's kind of a two-way thing where you make the products, they're expensive, more expensive than they would be, but yet you're getting paid, more than what...
A more reasonable
range. Right. And creating jobs is another thing. I mean, it's also a good avenue to go down. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see if this really does happen. He likes to claim, that certain things happened on his watch when maybe they didn't. Again, if it gets people even to think about things like that, maybe that's good.
Yeah. I would have, like I said, zero problem with Apple or a company that is based in a country making their own products in said country.
Exactly.
To sell around the world.
I mean, Tesla does it, so just saying.
Yeah, I mean, Tesla does it. I think it would be nice if Trump and his clothing lines would make their clothes here in the United States. But I guess that's, again, for that other podcast that we would talk about stuff like that. So anyway, by the time that you hear this, he will have been sworn in, and it begins.
Indeed. All I will say is, for those of you who were maybe not so much of a fan of Obama, some other people may not be a fan of Trump, and you should allow them to speak their mind the way they had let you speak yours.
Yep. Just don't be ignorant and closed-minded, no matter which side that you're on. Microsoft has some patents with a phone, and that's kind of one of the biggest things that's standing out. It's like Microsoft patenting a phone with a foldable screen.
Yeah, so they sort of talked about this on Windows Weekly about 2 days ago now. This is funny. I don't know if you remember about 2 years back, they had a kind of a video that was looking forward to the future, and they showed all this weird tech that we've never seen before that isn't even out yet. One of these phones is in there. In fact, one of the Surface Studio is in that video. And the other interesting thing is with this patent, that the same thing happened with the Surface Studio, how there was a patent that showed up, and it was only months before they released the Studio. So you would have to wonder, is this the long-rumored Surface Phone, Surface Mini, Surface something or another that may actually show up this year? Potentially into, next year, depending on if it's the ARM-based Windows device. Because if it is, we'll have to wait till next year. Signs are kind of leaning more towards that latter. But it is strange talking about Windows Phone in 2017 with less than 1% of the market share. I really do want them to come back. I really do want them to do good. But again, if you don't have the apps, your platform automatically just starts falling apart. So it really would be interesting to see where this goes. Or if it sees the light of day even.
Yeah, so again, we're going to link to a nice little article over from Throt.com. If this happens, great. I would love to be able to try it out and see, and really hope that it would succeed.
Hard to see it succeeding right now.
It seems like the excitement for a potential Surface phone has kind of left my mind.
Same, unfortunately.
It's like I wanted a Surface phone 2 years ago.
Right.
But but it's obvious that they have not given up on Windows 10 Mobile because they still release insider updates and new builds
kind of
and stuff like that.
They
would really alienate a lot of people if they did.
Mobile is kind of the future. It may not be in this form in 10, 20 years, whatever. But they do have to keep iterating and keep thinking about it because it is, again, the future of computing.
Yeah, mobile computing is kind of the way to go. And like we mentioned last week during the episode, the importance of the iPhone in today's mobile computing world and everything that we can do, that one smartphone takes up so many different devices, alarm clock, Walkman, MP3 player, camera, little laptop computer, and phone and all these different little things and game machines. Like, you can do so many different things with one device that just fits in your pocket.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
It is.
When you sit down and really think about what you got there, it's kind of amazing.
Yes, very, very amazing. Also, Microsoft is ending support for its Band 2 wearable device in Cortana on Android. Kind of just dabbled with this a little bit with Cortana and Android before. I returned it a couple weeks ago, but now with the latest update for the Cortana app on Android, it is pulling out any compatibility, I believe, with the Band 2.
I wonder if that's to stage our next little story.
Could.
Which
we'll have to see.
For those of you who are Android users and may have been a Windows Phone user in the past and enjoy Cortana, Cortana is coming to your lock screen on Android, apparently. So you'll be able to, I believe, swipe from left to right or right to left. I think it's left to right. Anyway, doesn't matter. So you'll be able to call upon Cortana to set your reminder, all the things that Cortana does, you know. I use her most for reminders, so that's probably what I would do. You can also search and whatnot, but anyhow, so Microsoft's been playing with this, and I believe you can sign up for a Cortana beta, and there's actually a link in the show notes for that on Windows Mobile, or MS Power User, sorry.
Using Cortana on the lock screen actually does not force you to unlock your phone. So you can kind of still do different things. So again, I mean, if somebody grabs your phone or whatever, they can still do Cortana stuff without being able to get into your phone. So that's kind of odd in a way.
I mean, well, first of all, they'll have to know how to use it. Number two, what really can they do other than set a bunch of goofy reminders? I don't know.
And I guess finding an Android user with Cortana on the lock screen is going to be one of those needle in a haystack kind of things.
Yeah, so even if they could, I mean, I'm sure there's ways to disable that to where, oh, maybe I don't want that to be a thing.
Yeah, we'll have to see what kind of settings really come out and be able to do this. But I think it might be kind of nice because I think Cortana does well when it comes to reminders. And
I'm very interested. Right now, I've been using Google Assistant for reminders because you had mentioned that you could do that. And I was like, okay, I'll give that a shot. It's nice.
Yeah, I think it works out pretty good. And now it's time for our app, entertainment, and hardware picks. With the release of Super Mario Run back in, what was that, December on iOS?
Yes.
We kind of knew it was going to be some time because iOS had the exclusivity on Super Mario Run because it was admitted by Miyamoto that, well, the reason why they went with Apple first was because of security. Now the wait is almost over for those of you Android users that are wanting to get a chance to play Super Mario Run, which, again, it's going to be the same kind of model where you can download it for free, play the first couple little levels, and then if you want to continue playing the rest of the game, then yeah, $10.
I would wonder if this would coincide with the Switch a little.
I don't know, maybe just time-wise, I don't think it's going to integrate with the system at all, but with the Switch coming out on March the 3rd, I think this is going to be coming out sometime in early March, I would presume.
I would imagine. I mean, just in time for my birthday. I've got all my Android credits saved up for it, so I'm ready to go whenever they are.
How much do you have on your rewards?
A little over $10.
Nice. So you're good to go then.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are wanting to do this, I'm curious of what your thoughts are, if you've had a chance to play around with it on iOS at all, or if this is something that you even care about.
It is worth noting for you Fire Emblem people that a Fire Emblem game is coming in February and will be launched on both platforms simultaneously.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of interesting that they're doing that one at the same time. And I wonder if that's because they feel that, well, Fire Emblem probably won't attract as many users to hammer any kind of online system.
More than likely, yes. Because you say Fire Emblem, and if you even know what it is, you probably know it from Super Smash. And the other people that do know what it is have played pretty much every game they've ever made.
Right.
So,
yeah. And obviously the name Mario is just legendary.
It's like saying Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
You just know what it is.
Yeah, Pac-Man, Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny. Next up is a movie that my dad had wanted to see, and it's something that I wanted to see too, and we finally got a chance to watch it. Rented it on Amazon Prime recently in the HD version, so like $4 or $5, whatever it was. And that's a nice little experience to just be able to boop, boop, boop. All right, you get it for 48 hours from the time that you start watching it.
Oh, that's a day longer than Microsoft's now that I think about it.
And you've got 30 days from the time that you purchase it to begin watching it. So we already watched it, and those days are already gone. And it's the 2016 version of The Magnificent Seven. And it has a really nice cast. You know, Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, Ethan Hawke, Vincent D'Onofrio. I can't really pronounce his last name. And, you know, some other people. You got Haley Bennett plays Emma Cullen. And this is a remake of a 1960s version of The Magnificent Seven that had a really, you know, quote-unquote legendary cast from back in the 60s, like Yul Brynner and people like that. So it's part of the Western genre. So if you like Westerns, I mean, I love... As you all know, people that are longtime listeners of the show, you know that I love Tombstone. So it's just a matter of, does this match up to Tombstone? Is this as entertaining? And I would say it's not, but I think it's still worth a watch. I don't know how much money I would spend to watch it again, but it was very entertaining and a nice little story.
Have you seen Hateful Eight yet?
Hateful Eight? No, I have not.
That is...
But see, that's what, 2.5 hours or something like that?
It is long.
It's long.
It's long, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not as bothered by long movies.
It usually doesn't bother me at all.
Okay. Well,
if it's good and it's got my attention, I have no problem how long it is.
At first, it is a little strange, but once you start getting into it, it has you right up to the end.
Well, Tarantino, it's got to build up the story and everything like that.
He's so good at character development, though, I would argue.
And that's important, especially if it's going to be a long movie and you've got a big group of characters. You got to kind of give everybody a little. So Magnificent Seven, you know, with having Chris Pratt, obviously there's some funny one-liners and stuff in there. You just can't have a Chris Pratt film and not have funny one-liners. It's just not a thing.
Right.
Denzel Washington, I think, kind of plays the lead character. His character's name is Chisholm, so he's kind of like the main person in there, and he does a really good job. I mean, it's not like one of his best acting jobs because I don't think the role really requires it, but it's interesting. And we had also, my wife and I, earlier in that day, had watched a movie with Kiefer and Donald Sutherland called Forsaken, and it's the Western that you can watch. I think we also watched it on Amazon or Showtime.
So it sounds like you watched a lot of movies during the ice storm.
Yeah, because, well, you had a little extra time to kind of do some things. Forsaken, it was just very slow, and there was just a handful of characters. I wish I could remember the name of the actor. I know it's Michael something, and he played the character of Dave, who was on kind of like the bad guys side. He was a fantastic actor. I really enjoyed his delivery of his lines. I kind of focus a little on that, and I appreciate the delivery of the lines and stuff. It's how he does. It reminded me a lot of that. I think he could have also played a great Doc Holliday, similar to what Val Kilmer did, just because his tone and the way that he was doing his lines. I'm like, man, I really like listening to this guy. I have to look into more things that he was be into. Getting a chance to watch both of those movies in the same day and seeing the contrast between two modern westerns, it's like you can definitely tell which one had the bigger budget. And it was not the one with Kiefer Sutherland, I will say that.
I think we mentioned this maybe a couple months back. It might have been about this time last year. One of my favorite westerns of recent has been The Revenant. And it's not traditional western like you would think, like desert and boots and cowboys and stuff. But it still is that western frontier kind of story. And I really liked it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's another long film, but it's worth it.
I failed to get it on 4K Blu-ray. I was planning on doing that on Black Friday, and I accidentally bought just regular Blu-ray. That is a movie to go see on 4K, I think.
Wow.
Just because of the grandiose, wide open West kind of feel it has.
Anywho, And next up, we've got a kind of a free way to play one of Brad's more recent favorite games, Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah, so from the time recording this, they have already put it for free on the PlayStation Store, from what I understand. And this is coming up for Xbox on January 24th. You can play Watch Dogs 2 for free for about 3 hours. And
what's that? I don't get. Why would you give somebody only 3 hours?
Because they want you to buy it.
I understand that, but
it's better than 1 hour. Most games only give you 1 hour demo.
Yeah, but then you get something like Titanfall and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and you get it for a weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
But then again, I guess the aspect is different because that is more of a multiplayer experience, where this is probably more of the solo experience.
Very much more geared towards solo. However, there is a lot of multiplayer stuff that intertwines. For example, you can invade people's first-player game, and start hacking them, and you gain points and start going up the leaderboards and the such. This is one of the few games that I've actually platinumed, meaning I've gotten all the achievements for, and I'm waiting for new DLC to drop. It is so freaking good compared to the first one. If you were a little lukewarm on the first one, or you're like, the first one was okay, this is the one to jump back into, because you can run and gun, you can play stealth, you can play a mixture, you can just use your drones and RC cars the entire time, which is mostly what I did. It is such a good game. So much to get lost in. And actually, I kind of learned a lot about San Francisco just playing the game, which was kind of interesting. You know, I know of San Francisco, but I don't know the landmarks and where they are, and now I kind of do, even though it's just a game. Mm-hmm. Ubisoft likes to be very accurate with the placement of landmarks, or relatively speaking.
Right.
It's not a one-to-one scale, but it's pretty close.
So, January 24th, get it free for 3 hours.
Or buy it. Because it's really good.
Right. And your progress in those 3 hours will transfer over if you do purchase it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Because if they didn't, it'd be like, why bother?
Yeah. So I'm not really sure what all you can do and accomplish in 3 hours of gameplay. I would imagine it would go fairly quick because I know how my Titanfall sessions go.
Yeah. It's hard to say. It really depends how easy it is for you to acclimate to a new game. But I don't know. I would at least check it out. Again, if you have the funds and you enjoy it, I would definitely say get it because it's so good.
And speaking of Titanfall, I can definitely tell that a lot of the people that kind of held off that are really good first-person shooter players, they've definitely gotten Titanfall because, man, when I played the other night, oh my God, I was getting tore up. This one dude, I can't even remember what his name was. After the match, he kept tearing me up. I was like, oh my God. I sent him a message. I'm like, dude, great round. You just destroyed us. And he didn't respond. I'm like, dude, seriously, I give you a compliment. At least say thanks.
I'm a little hesitant to jump back into Gears of War because, as the listeners know, I've been playing 7 Days to Die frequently. But I'm starting to get that Gears of War itch again, so I don't know. We'll see.
All right, so the last thing that I kind of want to talk about is Patrick Stewart is going to voice the poop emoji.
Is this real?
In Emoji Movie. Yes, this is real. There is going to be an animated film called Emoji Movie, which follows Gene, an emoji born with multiple expressions who teams up with the notorious codebreaker, Jailbreak, on an adventure through a teenager's phone. Other voices that are signed on to play is Jennifer Coolidge, who is best known as Stifler's mom from the American Pie movie, Mary Meh, and Saturday Night Live grad Maya Rudolph. Jake T. Austin will be playing Emoji's resident teen Alex. They're also being joined by James Corden, Stephen Wright, and Rob Riggle. But yes, recently it was announced that Sir Patrick Stewart is going to voice the poop emoji in this film. So I don't know what to think of this. I love animated films, and this is, I believe, a Sony Pictures animated film. So it's not like DreamWorks or obviously Disney Pixar. But it is definitely something that I know I will end up watching just because I want to see what Patrick Stewart can do voice-wise. I love listening to him talk as well.
From the wonderful people over at Sony Pictures.
Yes. And, just hearing the poop emoji, it kind of makes me think things like Sausage Party. I don't know.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
It's like, whoa. what is this going to be about? But again, to see if they can pull off a film focusing on emojis, which I'm not the biggest emoji person out there. I don't necessarily get the whole thing. It's like, okay, we've graduated from the caveman days where we just drew pictures to communicate. Let's use our words.
If you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Bear with me here.
Okay.
So
different generations here.
I mean, we're almost like the Egyptians now. We write on walls.
Hieroglyphics.
And we worship cats. So across the internet, just saying, we write on walls and worship cats. Yeah. What's the difference? And we use pictures to talk.
We've come full circle.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time for the beer pick of the week.
So I don't normally do this, but this is a more local pick. And the reason it's a local pick is because it is probably one of the best milk stouts I have ever had anywhere, ever. And by that, I mean option number 2 by Rockbridge Brewing Co. here in Missouri. Now, I believe they are based out of Columbia, Missouri, which they are. And apparently, this specific beer comes in cans, which I was very surprised to learn. But it is a 9.2 ABV, so pretty far up there. Maybe just have one of these cans if you do find it.
Got a little kick. 30
IBUs, which does not taste like that at all. The rating is 4.17 out of 2,747 ratings, which, it's not a lot because it's very, very local based. In fact, it's actually kind of hard to find in St. Louis. I just happened across it at a bar here in St. Louis. Both myself and previously mentioned Justin, friend of the show, I had it first and was telling him how amazing it was that he just had to go and have it as well. We both gave it a 5, which does not happen very often.
No.
The best way I can describe this is it's an Imperial Milk Stout with vanilla and hazelnut flavors in the back and a little bit of coffee bean maybe. I wasn't really getting the coffee. I was getting more of the vanilla and hazelnut, which don't get too much hazelnut in a beer, but my God, is it good. Oh my gosh, I'm salivating just thinking about it.
So you got it on draft, apparently.
I did. It was at Bailey's Range in downtown St. Louis that I had it. If you are a St. Louisan, perhaps stop by there. Also have one of their delicious milkshakes. One of the best places to get ice cream. Hot chocolate and marshmallow milkshake.
Nice. I might have to look for this at some of the local places around the city and get it in cans, which I love seeing companies, craft brewers in particular, release their offerings in cans, not just bottles, because cans I can take on float trips.
Exactly. And not only that, but it's better for the environment because it's easier to recycle aluminum and they are lighter to ship.
Right. And
they keep light out of the beer. There's all good reasons to use cans.
Right. Unlike bottles, they don't break.
Good point.
So that's always a nice thing to do.
But yeah, it looks like it comes in some kind of pint variant, like a 16-ounce can. No, so not like the little 12-ounce, but like a pint of,
the taller cans.
Yeah, I would assume like a 4-stack or maybe even a 6-stack. Hard to say. I haven't been there. But because of this beer, I really want to go to this brewery now. So
maybe you need to make a little day trip and go to Columbia.
Might just happen soon.
Do it when school's on break, though.
Good call. Might have to wait till the summer.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that does it for this episode of Tech Informist. I hope that you have all enjoyed this. You can email us your feedback to contact@thetechinformist.com. You can also leave us a voice message at 314-529-1998 and interact with us on Twitter at Tech Informist, at Kevin Harvell, and at Holy_Shadows or Holy Shadows.
On Twitter, Holy_Shadows.
Okay. Always, because I know you're different variations depending on where you're at. And again, that wonderful Destructoid piece that you wrote about usernames and stuff like that. You kind of go into detail about that I probably won't use a social media service if I can't get my username.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or some variation of it. That
I mean, I in quotations, own the rest of them elsewhere. So if somebody else wants them and they're trying to brand themselves, they're going to have a hard time. Just saying.
Just saying. Good luck.
Yeah. because I'm not giving up mine. Sorry.
Oh, completely understand. So,
I did do a new article this week. It's actually of the so they put out a kind of a challenge to write about, and it's about New Year's Evil, and basically it's about evil characters that you may not necessarily align yourself with, but you enjoy because, they're very layered, or you just like the character for some strange reason. I go into detail on a few characters.
So like Leisure Suit Larry and stuff like that. And
well,
Conquer.
Actually, I start out with Kylo Ren because a lot of people don't like Kylo Ren, and I explain why he may be more of somebody you want to look at, maybe.
An angsty teenager.
And I even mentioned that in the very first sentence. So, yeah. I know my audience.
Made of my parents.
I did write that, so if you want to check it out on Destructoid, you can find Holy Shadows and click on the blog post, and you should find it there.
Mm-hmm. So there you go, folks. He's probably going to link to this as well in the show notes. And everything pretty much that we did discuss in here will have links in our show notes for this episode. Mm-hmm. And the show is available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and pretty much every other podcast application that you can find if you would like. We would really appreciate if you could head over to iTunes or Stitcher Radio and leave a rating and review of what you think of the podcast, so that when other people kind of discover it by searching for Tech Podcast and the name might happen to pop up, they'll have an idea what you think of the show. Appreciate all and any feedback, and also any shares, retweets, likes, things like that. That pretty much does it for this. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brad. And
this has been this episode of the Tech Informist, which, if you're going by numbers and counting, would be episode 161. And until we talk again next time, consider yourself informed. We are out.
Palindrome!